All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Tonight we got something a little cool for you, a little different. It's a old brand that's been revitalized. Today we're talking with Will over at Chicken Cock Bourbon. Yeah, and we're going to talk about all the stuff that they're doing over there. We're going to talk about they were gracious enough to send over some samples, so we're going to do a little taste of that. But one of the cool things that I love about these older brands that have kind of died off and then they come back is just the rebranding of it and the making it cool again, I guess we could say. So Will, thank you so much for joining us on the show. But why don't you tell us a little bit about why bring back Chicken Cock?
Great question. First and foremost, Randall, thank you so much for having us as a brand. Excited to chat and sip through some of these great whiskeys with you. The whys were, a mile long when it came to why we decided to revive this brand. That story kind of goes back to around 2011. Our parent company is called Grain and Barrel Spirits. The guy who founded that is named Matti Antila, and he was looking for his older whiskey brand to revive from the ashes, but he didn't know which one that would be or how to go about doing that. So he was in a search and doing his own private research, going to museums and looking at books and history. And he was at the Oscar Getz Museum in Bardstown, Kentucky, and passed across this bottle that said Chicken Cock on the front. And he had never seen or heard of this brand before. Mm-hmm. And like anybody, as soon as you see that name the first time, it stops you dead in your tracks. You have nothing but questions. And he came to find out that the brand was as old as it is, coming up on 170 years old, that the history was very rich. The packaging was amazing. The name obviously is standout. And the trademark was dead at that point. So we didn't have to fight anybody to bring it back from the ashes, so to speak. And we've been on an amazing trail ever since. But yeah, that gives you an idea of some of the reasons why we decided to revive it. There was just so much to lean into with this brand.
Absolutely. And one of the things I want to tell the viewers at home and the listeners, this bottle is really ornate. It has almost a chicken wire type feel to it. It's really cool. It feels good in the hand. Like it has this little cutout in the back to where it almost feels like a hip flask, but a little bit larger. And this one is the one I poured open was their straight Kentucky bourbon. What is it coming in at? 90 proof. So tell us a little bit about this 90 proofer while I give it a little smell.
Yeah. So we get questions a lot, being as old as we are, if we use the original recipe, when we revived the brand, did we find that? We scoured for it, trust me, but we can never identify that. So what we decided to do with our bourbon once we launched it, excuse me, is we decided to use a recipe that may have been indicative of the later 1800s, like they used to make it, which is a high rye content. So we used 70% corn, 21% rye, and 9% malted barley on the mash bill for our bourbon. And then, a big piece that really drives some of the quality messaging and what you see as proof in your glass is the wood. 70% of your flavor in your whiskey's coming from that wood alone. So we put a lot of attention and care into that process. So the barrels that our bourbon and rye rest in, those logs were hand selected. And they were hand selected because they were slow growing American white oak. If you were to cut it down, you'd notice a lot more natural growth rings per inch coming out of that tree. And that means that it has much more natural wood sugars that give your whiskey great flavor and quality built up in them. So we did that for a purpose. And then we also do a medium plus toast and level 3 char to each barrel before we dump whiskey in there. And that toasting process, again, is something that a lot of places don't typically do because it costs more money. But that's going to caramelize all those natural wood sugars I just mentioned from those hand-selected American white oak logs. So everything I just mentioned is in that glass right there, 90 proof, as you mentioned. This is a flagship product for us, a very high-selling product. It's very popular because it's very approachable, in my opinion, in flavor, in price, and it's got enough complexity to it where you want to come back to it again and again.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I love the fact that you guys are using a higher toast because everybody, and I'm not poo-pooing the larger brands like Wild Turkey and Jim Beam, but they want that alligator char, that super dark char. But what they don't realize is where all the flavor in the wood is in the toast. And so having a higher toast, because a lot of those are level 5 char, level 1 toast. Like you're only getting the toast because it's been charred so much. And it's really nice to see you're pulling more of those wood sugars, like you're saying. You're pulling more of that out, and it shows on the nose, because it is sweet and inviting, but yet it's still, you get some of that barrel tannin. And what is, if you can tell me, what is the comparable year of what's going into this blend?
Our blue label bourbon is always a minimum of 4 years old.
Okay, so I mean, you're getting a good age statement. You're not doing the bottom of the shelf stuff, but at the same time, you have enough complexity there to where you could sit with this neat. You could have it on ice ball, whatever you want. But I bet this plays very well in a cocktail as well. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You're drinking. I'm sorry.
No. It happens all the time. But no, going back to the rye content that we put in the 21% rye, when you end up using this bourbon in any one of your favorite cocktails at home, that rye content helps to really shine through, cut through some of the sweeter flavors in the glass, and works super well in any cocktail you throw at it. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean, because you can just see on the flavor transition from the beginning of the palate to the end of the palate, it's just, you have that sweetness up front, then that rye comes in and just kind of, it doesn't dominate, but it gives you a lot of those rye characters that you want on a good, it's not high. Is it considered high rye? I guess maybe. I think they say 22%, whatever, of the rye. But then it also is very balanced at the end and leaves you with this oaky tannic ending, which kind of goes into like some vanillins and stuff like that, which is really nice. And it's not one of those whiskeys that falls off at the end, and it just gets like, it has a very short ride. It just like, okay, we're here and we're done, and you don't really want another sip because you're like, man, it really didn't taste like nothing. This has flavor, and being that it's 90 proof, what I'm not poo-pooing 90 proof at all, but being that it's 90 proof, you would think that it would have a shorter mouthfeel on it, and it really doesn't. It really presents a lot more flavor than you think it would. I guess is what I was getting at.
Yeah. No, look, coming into this role, it's been about 3 years since I've been in the position that I am. But
okay,
one of the ways that I got here is, look, I'm a massive whiskey collector myself, and I've enjoyed everything from the low proof side all the way up to the barrel proof and hazmat things. Right.
Right.
It obviously in the last few years, the proof of whiskeys has really dominated the conversation. And, so when some of these, whiskey, avid whiskey drinkers look at a 90 proof whiskey, they may figure that, to them, it might just fall off, or it's going to be one note and done. And that is not the case at all with our 90 proof bourbon. As someone who really enjoys things that are 100, 110, 120 and above, I love this 90 proof bourbon because it's what I like to call your Monday through Friday porch sipper, right?
Yep.
And what I mean by that is that you can toss anything you want at this at home. You can drink it neat. You can put it over an ice cube and drink it that way. You can make a great cocktail. It should be kind of a rotating, regular, easy go-to thing that's got enough flavor and enough complexity to keep you coming back, like I said, even at that 90 proof.
Yeah, and that's the telltale signs of a good bourbon, right? Because you want to be able to pick out the complexity in it when you're sitting there nerding out on it, doing whiskey nerd stuff. But like, if you just want to have a good pour, sit down and watch a movie and not think about it, it can turn into that as well. So it's one of those ones where it's kind of a chameleon in the way that it's doing it, because like sitting here right now. And of course, when you're drinking whiskey with people that have their hands on the whiskey as well, it really does make it, I'm not going to say taste better, but it makes it better because it's the camaraderie over the glass, right? Because whiskey's all about the story. Whiskey's all about the backstory and all of the other things that are going on in it. And so the fact that you're able to do that with me right now, it does make it a little bit better, but it also doesn't take away from anything that's in this glass. I could sit down with this a week from now, 2 weeks from now, and still get that flavor complexity out of there. And for it being the higher corn content. It's sweet, but it's not overly sweet. Some of these whiskeys that you get that are really high corn content, they are almost cloyingly sweet. So they put them in a lot of oak and they make them very oaky. And so then you have this sweetness and tannin, and that's all you really get. Whereas this actually has a rye, a complexity and stuff like that. So you were talking about earlier that you've been with the company for a little while. So tell us a little bit of your backstory and what made you get into this.
So I've, like I said, been in the position in January. It'll be 3 years. The brand, the quality of the whiskey, the story, the history behind it, what I get to do, I'm very, very lucky, and I'm very passionate about what I do. It's an amazing role and such a great brand to represent. But I have not been in the whiskey industry, spirits industry for a very long time at all, in comparison to many, many people out there who might have a similar position. I was actually in the automotive industry. I'm from the Detroit area, so I guess that, 1 and 2 adds up. But, so I was in the automotive industry for almost a decade. During that time, I developed a very personal passion for whiskey, and I got to travel a lot for that job. And I was always popping in and out of liquor stores and bringing bottles home. And I used to have my own whiskey social media page and interviewed distilleries. I was on the flip side of the table for a while.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did that, and it just became a huge passion of mine. And I kind of had my mindset on getting into the industry eventually. I just didn't know for what brand or what position that might be, but I knew I wanted to get into the industry to educate, to advocate, to connect with people. I didn't necessarily want a sales role, right? So it was tough to try and nail that down and find the right opportunity. But eventually, I ended up departing that automotive company. I did some work with Bourbon Company for about a year here locally in Michigan, and was able to get great experience there and work for a great brand, of course. And then this opportunity came up about 3 years ago, and away I went, man. So it's been great.
So I will level with you. I am a plumber by trade. I own my own business, and plumbing and automotive are fairly similar. And now people are going to say, no, they're not, but it is tedious work. It is fixing little parts and doing things. And, you might be replacing a carburetor, not that they have those anymore, but, and I'm over here replacing the cartridge in the shower valve. It's the same thing, right? And it's the type of work where it's like, you use your hands a lot, you use your mind a lot. You're constantly in tight spaces doing like this. And it just really goes to show when somebody's into whiskey, like you are, and like I am as well, I think it's like a mindset of people to where they're like, they are meticulous and they want to pull apart things. And they have that inquisitive mind. Like there was a show on TV called How It's Made. And basically it showed you how things were made, like everything from styrofoam to tires or whatever. And it was such an inquisitive thing. And my wife comes up to me and she goes, why are you watching this? This is the most boring thing in the world to watch. Why would you ever watch this? It's literally a factory making presses of like whatever. And why are you doing this? And I'm like, because I want to know things. And I feel like we have that same sort of mindset of like just learning and trying to expand our knowledge, but also tinkering at the same time. So that's really cool. And so when you got on with the brand, were you like, okay, I want to get my hands on barrels. I want to, because I don't want to sit in a desk. I don't want to do all the things. How was it? How did you just jump in? And then next thing you know, you're ambassador.
Good question. I mean, look, Grain and Barrel Spirits had never really had a quote unquote national brand ambassador, right? So it was a totally new role that not only I was stepping into, but the company and brand was stepping into. And but that was really cool because I was able to, I was trying to figure out, the best way to communicate the brand. What's all the nitty gritty history pieces maybe that we can lean into that we haven't before. So I was doing a ton of research at home on the brand.
Right.
I was trying all the liquid. I was doing all the stuff. I wanted to be as involved as possible. And like I said, the company, the brand has believed in me and has entrusted in me to represent it on a national level, during some really key media opportunities and events and with key partners and stuff. And that level of trust, I'm very grateful for. But it all comes through developing that passion and knowing your stuff. You have to walk in the room and be like, okay, that is the chicken cock guy. There's no two questions about it. And so you have to do that. Like I said, before I got into this, I was meticulous in picking apart hundreds and thousands of whiskeys probably and collecting them all on my own. So I was already geared up to present a long, extensive history. It was something I was doing already that I'm already passionate about. So with the amazing long history that this brand has, the quality it symbolizes, and everything, I was able to sink my teeth into it. And again, I wouldn't be representing the brand if I didn't fully believe in its whiskey, its story, and its trajectory.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I'm on the road quite a bit, as you can imagine, going across the nation, educating everybody from distributors to consumers to accounts and everything. And you may assume that I get exhausted of speaking about this brand, but the truth is I really don't. It's so much fun. It's so enjoyable to educate people on.
Well, and somebody is always going to come up with a new question to ask. And they're always going to say, well, did you think about this? Or what are your thoughts on this? Now, I'm going to try to get the elephant out of the room right now. We're 16 and a half minutes in. Why chicken cock?
I'm surprised it didn't come up sooner because
I know. I was waiting a little bit,
You were waiting with bated breath. I'm sure it was written down on your notepad in big bold letters. What the hell is up with the name? Yeah, trust me, it's the number one question that we get. It's a question I answer almost daily. And anybody that represents the brand out there can attest to the same. But we're very fortunate and lucky that we get that question. It's a blessing and a curse because it opens up that door of conversation. We are the number one, I think, conversation starting brand name out there, period. Everybody wants to know how the hell we came up with this, and we can't take credit for it, right? So there's some things to remember when you're speaking about the chicken cock brand, okay? Obviously, it predates bourbon as we know it. Bourbon didn't become America's native spirit until 1964. Predates that by over 100 years. It also predates one of the most well-known historic whiskey brands in the world, but certainly America, which is Jack Daniel's, right? They came around in 1866. We predate them by 10 years. So when you're speaking on, when you think about the grand history, Jack is one of those ones that everybody knows is super old. And we actually predate them. And then most importantly, we predate the term rooster being popularized here in America. That is the most critical thing to remember, okay? And you have to put yourself in 1856 times. Pretty much every whiskey brand was started by a farmer because they had excess corn crops. They had the means to distill. They had places to age barrels. And so all these farmers started making whiskey brands and then naming those brands after farm animals. So you had Kentucky Owl, Peacock Distillery, Old Crow, Chicken Cock, right? Again, the term rooster didn't exist. What are you going to call it, right? The term for male chicken back then was a chicken cock or a cock. So all he was doing was naming it after one of his most prized possessions, which would have been what we now know today as a rooster. And roosters were also symbols of defiance and pride. So I'm sure there was something mixed in there to kind of, exude the high quality, exude the pride that they had behind the brand. And I'm sure that was tied into it as well. But in terms of the base level name, that kind of puts it into perspective, hopefully, about how they came up with it.
Right. So, I mean, because rooster whiskey just doesn't sound as good. You know what I mean? Like it's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like it makes me think of Alice in Chains or something like that. But it's not making people go, what? It's more like, okay, it's a rooster, So yeah. And that's a thing that a lot of people don't. Well, the people who listen to this show, yes, because I've done deep dives on history and stuff like that. Because back in the day, there, like you said, there was farms and they were selling their whiskey from their farm, their mercantile, that they were selling their grain and whiskey in the same time. And so when your whiskey was good, people kept coming back to you and they would get their little hip flask and fill up their glass. So it says something for the brand that back then it was a name, quote unquote, name brand, right? Because that means the whiskey was good coming out of there. And I can tell you guys right now that the whiskey is good coming out of here as well. It's now that I've sat with it for a minute, we're 20 minutes or 20 something minutes by now, it is enveloped into like, there's a lot of like citrus on it and a lot of like the rye spices there. It's more like, it gives me a little mint and even cardamom. It's so, when you dive into it, yeah, you can just ease over it and shoot it, you're fine. But if you really get into it, it gives you so much flavor and complexity into it that it's like, man, I don't really need it any hotter than this. Like I feel like it would just increase the ethanol load. Now, obviously, there is some things to be said with higher distilled products. Less water equals more flavor, supposedly. But at the same time, the way that you guys are, and we can talk about this if you know about it, the way that the blending is done, to blend it to make it so cohesive in its profile. And that has to be an art, because when you're trying to create a product, and you will know this all too well, when you're trying to create a product that is the same today as it is tomorrow, it takes obviously a lot of whiskey for one, but it also takes a very astute blender to get that blend exactly. And no two blends are the same. I don't care what you say. Most people that drink, like you were talking about Jack Daniels, most people that drink Jack Daniels, they're going to mix it with something. They're, Old Number 7 especially. They're going to mix it with something, or they're going to have it on ice, and it's going to water it down. So the little 5 to 10% differences in the batches, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But when you're doing, like, say, a single barrel or something like that, it's going to definitely show. So tell us a little bit about how you guys keep it cohesive, keep it all together, but also make it more complex if you can.
Yeah. So we collaboratively distill, maturate, and blend everything in collaboration with Bardstown Bourbon Company. We struck up that agreement in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And they're amazing world-class partners. So that's where all Chicken Cock whiskey is made at. In terms of the blending, we're typically using about just 42 to 60 barrels per batch on our Blue Label bourbon. So,
okay.
And I can talk about our small batch bourbon and some details behind why we did that. But so there's brands out there that, have small batch on the label, but no one's policing that. There's no, certain number of barrels for a minimum, maximum. So you can have a product out there that says small batch, and they're using 200 barrels, to blend it together. So it's truly a small batch bourbon in the grand scheme of what's out there. We also do have a 100 proof small batch bourbon that you can get, which is always made from 15 barrels or less. So I think that there's an art in using a small number of barrels. 42 to 60 for a base level product scale nationwide is not a lot.
Not.
We're able to kind of keep that complexity there. We're typically using barrels that are resting on the 5th and 7th floors, which in Bardstown would be about the center cut and the top floor of the rick. And those center cut barrels are going to have a little bit more typically of like your butterscotches, your citruses and stuff. And those higher floor barrels are going to have more of those oak tannins, more of that baking spice. The rye comes through a little bit more. When you blend those two together, you're able to come out with this really cohesive bourbon that from start to finish is going to bring great flavor. It's not going to be one note. You're going to get that little bit of sweetness up front, as you mentioned, the rye spice in the back, the nice oak influence. It's a really, really delicious, great sipper. So
it really is. And I love how you especially are, because obviously I haven't talked to anybody else Chicken Cock, so it's not going to help me, but that you are so transparent about where you're getting it, because that's a big thing in the whiskey world right now, is people are being kind of shady, and they're kind of like just saying, we got it. Even the huge brands, Buffalo Trace, I'll throw them out in the fire right now. Buffalo Trace says it's mash bill number 1. Well, what is that mash bill? Like, I'd like to know what that mash bill is, because for me, not that anybody, you could literally distill the same product all day, every day, and try and meet mash bill number 1. You're never going to get it. They have their thing. like to me, the transparency is key, because if you're going to create a product, it doesn't matter if you're making it yourself or if you're procuring the barrels, make it the best way that you know how. And I feel like that's what you guys are trying to do. You guys are trying to get the best barrels you can get, and produce the best whiskey you can with the smallest barrel load, because you think about, well, it'd be 40 times about 200. So, you got about that many bottles, and so it's a fairly small run when it comes to the amount. Cause I know which one you're talking about. Jefferson's always says we have a very small batch. And the last time I looked, they were using 240 barrels in each batch. That's not very small. That's not very small at all. And it really shows, it shows in their product as well, because it's not very good. And now I'm not going to poo-poo anybody making whiskey out there. Do what you got to do, right? Somebody will buy it. But at the same time, I would prefer to drink better whiskey, right? So I appreciate the transparency on that. And yeah, no, it means a lot, because the blending part, and then also like the cohesiveness of the barrels, because you have to think in a rick house, every barrel is going to be 10 to 20%, 30% different, depending upon where it's at. And so like getting that all put together, that's a task. And the more barrels you have, the harder it is to get it to go together. So I applaud you for using a smaller barrel count. That way it makes it easier to handle, but it's also enough to where you can actually get out there to the masses, which is pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit about like what you guys are distributing and where you're able to distribute. You're based out of Kentucky, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So what is your distribution like? Because I know that RNDC is having some issues right now. So, are you nationwide? Is it every state in the world? Is it online only? How did COVID affect that? We got a lot to talk about. So,
well, first and foremost, we're pretty much in pretty much every state in some capacity. I think there's a couple that we may not be in. But, of course, the scale in which we're in each of those states is going to vary based on our distribution and our footprint and stuff. But we've got some really amazing markets out there. We've got a lot that have a lot of interest in chicken cock. And again, we're continuously growing this brand across the nation. But we're available pretty much everywhere. If you can get liquor shipped to your doorstep, there's multiple ways, including our website in which you can buy, that kind of stuff too. When it comes to COVID and all that stuff, I wasn't with the company back then. I was with, an automotive company. I know that they did not handle COVID very well. But no, I mean, chicken cock was, I actually interviewed chicken cock in 2020, going back to the distilleries that I used to interview. Yeah. I interviewed chicken cock in 2020, and that's kind of when they were coming out with a lot of fun releases when we were launching Cotton Club 20-year Canadian Rye to pay homage to chicken cock being smuggled in tin cans during Prohibition. Island Rooster came out around then, all that stuff. So there was obviously a large surge in whiskey interest and whiskey purchasing and limited runs and releases. And so everything went well for the brand, and it's been nothing but growing ever since then. So
that's awesome.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you were gracious enough to send over another sample, and this one,
yes.
Well, it's not. It's different in the fact that it's different, but it's also aged 10 years, and this is the Chicken Cock Double Oaked. And the cool thing about it, it has like a little shot glass on the top of it, which is super nice, super cool, kind of nichey. Obviously, we don't condone shooting whiskey around here. We want to enjoy it. Look, I didn't even take the cellophane off. I'm literally waiting for you. But tell us a little bit about this. And again, the bottling of this has really ornate, was it like sunflowers or starbursts or something on it? It's really like you guys have gone above and beyond on packaging, which that means a lot, because guess what? If this is sitting on the shelf and I'm looking at it, and you guys are looking at it and you're like, man, that's a pretty bottle. I wonder if the whiskey's good in it. And if the price point meets, and we can talk about price point later. If the price point meets the bottle, because you see some that are in fancy bottles, and you're like, oh crap, that's going to be expensive. But then you see others that you're like, that's all bottled, no whiskey, right? So tell us a little bit about this double oaked, because I'm interested to get in this. And this one is coming in at what, 92 proof? So it's a little bit higher, not hotter.
Just a touch, just a scotch there. But real quick, I do want to go into the packaging because there's a whole story there.
Please.
Chicken cock, again, turning 170 years old next year. For a long time, chicken cock, from 1856 until Prohibition hit in America, it was one of the highest quality reputation brands in the nation. It was historic. It had been around for a long time. There were a lot of people who tried to capitalize off the success that this brand had over that time frame. There's a lot of stories that go into that and a lot of history there that I'm leaving off the table. But let's fast forward to Prohibition 1920. Typically, that is where most of these whiskey brands like Chicken Cock, that is where their story ended. They went bankrupt. They dissolved. There's no way they're making it through booze being illegal in the United States till however long it was going to go on. And so that's usually where most brands' stories stopped. Chicken Cock not only survived through Prohibition, but it was made during it. So there's two ways that Chicken Cock was made. The first, there's a guy by the name of Sam Bronfman, and Sam Bronfman went on to own the Seagram's Corporation. He bought it out, I think, shortly just before Prohibition. And when Canada was going through Prohibition before the United States, he was smuggling booze up north. And then when the script flipped and the United States enacted Prohibition, he bought up a ton of land and built Distillers Corporation Limited in Montreal with the sole intention of smuggling booze out into the United States. He was buddy-buddy with guys like Al Capone back then. So away he goes. He starts producing Chicken Cock as a pure Canadian rye whiskey. He's taken the pint bottle, which has chicken wire on the outside and a crowing rooster on the back. He's putting it into a tin can, and then the tin can is sealed. It's, if you look at old tin cans of cigarettes or anything else, it's almost like an oyster can, right, where you got to cut around the outer edge. And that was to prevent bootleggers from drinking the whiskey before it made its way to its final destination. So they were taking all these tin can bottles of Chicken Cock, bringing them to an island off the coast of Newfoundland, and then they were smuggling all that whiskey into the eastern seaboard of the United States. And one of the coolest places that we found out that Chicken Cock ended up was at the Cotton Club in Harlem, New York, during the Roaring 20s.
Oh, wow.
So that was the most famous jazz and speakeasy club in the world during that time. All the legends played there. And we came to find out that Duke Ellington, in his memoirs, he speaks about playing at the Cotton Club and mentions Chicken Cock by name. It was the house whiskey there. It was rumored to cost about $10 to $14 per pint if you wanted one, which is about $200 plus in today's money.
Right.
And it was a ceremonious thing. You'd show up at the Cotton Club, you'd pay the doorman an extra few bucks, and he had a great, table near the band stage maybe, and he'd sit down one of those tin cans right there. That's an actual tin can of Chicken Cock.
Wow.
Prohibition.
That is awesome.
And out the bottle came.
That is so cool.
So yeah, you can see, where we got that bottle design from. I mean, it's amazing. That's 100 years old, right? So we were able to take this and bump it up to a 750 milliliter. And we've paid homage to the tin can factor as well as some various tin can limiteds.
Right.
But going into the double oak bottling, that is also a direct pull from history. So the other way that Chicken Cock was made in the mid 1920s, the United States government gave 6 distilleries the permit to make medicinal whiskey. And so national distillers who owned American Medicinal Spirits Company started making Chicken Cock as a medicinal bottle and bond bourbon. And the double oak bottle that right there is the exact bottling it would have come in. So if you're smart in the 1920s, you got to cough every day of the week because your doctor's going to prescribe you whiskey for anything. You get your prescription from the general store, you bring your bottle home, and you measure your medicine with that cap on top. It's just like NyQuil or anything else would be today. It's for ease of use, right? So our packaging, is direct pull from actual history, which is great.
That is so cool. I love that because anytime you can tie anything into history and a memory and all of those things, it just makes it real, and it puts you back into that time when you're sitting with that little thing and you're like, during Prohibition, obviously they're like, man, we ain't got nothing. We're making bathtub gin over here, or Pruno in the toilet or whatever, and to be able to have a thimble full of actual whiskey, and know that it was obviously bottled and bond, and so it was actual whiskey. It wasn't some weird crap that they were making, putting bath salts and stuff in it. But like, it's just so cool to see that history and the fact that you guys literally have it on the same bottle. I don't know. It just the homage that is paid is like paying your dues. You know what I mean? And you're saying, yes, we know we're a newer brand, like we've revitalized this brand and we don't have, but we're trying to carry that name on. And that means a lot. That really means a lot. So obviously double oaked and finished. Do you consider double oaked finished? I'm going to ask you that.
Not in the traditional sense. That's not where my head goes. I think double oak is, it's just straight up wood that you're sort of depending upon. It's not a special spirit or wine or anything of that nature. But I mean, technically, I guess you could. You're dumping it into a secondary barrel, sure. I'll tell you the production story on this, because it's definitely not your standard double oak story.
Please do.
It's a very popular subcategory, double oaked, right? There's a couple of big brand names and brands that come to mind. And typically the way that those are made is they age their bourbon as normal, and then they dump that bourbon into a secondary toasted or lightly charred cask, maybe even, and then they have their double oaked whiskey, right? So it goes from one new barrel into another new barrel, both of which are charred / toasted. For this whiskey, it was made by another producer in 2014. And this producer made this whiskey as a bourbon. It's got the mash bill credentials to be one. It's 80.5% corn, 11% rye, 8.5% malted barley. However, did I get that math right just now? Yeah. Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. I did. But anyway, so they made it as a bourbon, right? The problem is 2014, there was a lot of rain, snow runoff, and everything that was oversaturating the ground. So to get heavy mining equipment in where they would normally harvest this American white oak, they just didn't pull nearly as much as they needed in order to build new barrels. So they dumped this, what was made as a bourbon, back into used bourbon barrels. That's the only reason why it's called the Kentucky whiskey. And it sat in those used barrels for the first 7 years. We got an opportunity to acquire the liquid. But when we did, we knew we needed to take it to the next level, right? It had soaked up some flavor and color and all that stuff, but the only way to get to the point that we needed it to be at was further maturation. So we dumped the whiskey back into brand new barrels with a level 4 char. We aged all those barrels at the top parts of the rick house in Kentucky for another 3 years, and that's what you're tasting right now. Wow. Aged in those used bourbon barrels for 7 years, brand new oak for 3 years, dumped out and proofed at 92. Obviously, this is going to drink a lot different than the bourbon you just tried, because it's a totally different whiskey, totally different maturation story. Right. But it is one of our most, favorite expressions that we have out there. See what you think about it. I'm not going to flood your head with tasting notes or thoughts. I just want you to enjoy the whiskey in your glass and see what you think.
Awesome. No, I mean, okay, it is different. Obviously, it's different, but it's not, for being double oaked, you're saying, it's not punching me in the face with wood tannins and stuff like that, because it was in used oak first. But also, like, the color, even, I mean, it's normal colored. I live in Texas. Our whiskey is black as coffee. So it's like, what are we doing? But to have it a 10-year-old product, like, you couldn't tell me this wasn't, I know legal terminology. It has to be in new oak first, so it's not considered a bourbon. I get that, but it's bourbon through and through, and it follows that. But it's also like a little soft, and it's, I don't know. There's something in the nose where it's like, it almost gives me, like, how do you say it? Like not muted notes, but the notes are softened with like almost a floral on top of it, which normally you don't get floral notes. You normally get that with like scotches and stuff like that. It's almost like a floral note that comes through, but when you get it on the taste is when you get those wood tannins and all of the vanillas and caramels and all that, which it's almost, I'm not going to say it's not discordant, but it's like, the nose is presenting one thing, and then the palate, it's carrying on those notes, but it's like, okay, well, this is actually whiskey too. So come on with it. So it's really cool to see. And I'm kind of intrigued by this because it's so light on the nose, but on the taste, it gives you all the bourbon profile that you want. And it's, man,
Yeah.
wow.
I love double oak, because it kind of presents a wide variety of great flavors. What I truly love about it is, look, I've tasted plenty of those double oak whiskeys out there. I enjoyed many, many of them. The problem with the double oak whiskey typically, and it's not that you always find this, but
Right.
they can punch you a little bit too hard with the tannins, a little bit too rich. And at that point, I have that pour and then I'm kind of done. With our double oak, it's much more well balanced because of that maturation factor it went through. And you can come to this time and time again. As you mentioned, it drinks more like a great Kentucky bourbon with some added oak influence rather than this, you're drinking oak. You know what I mean? We didn't want to get to that point. So I think that the balance, the fact that it actually stayed in those used barrels is beneficial because I think it yielded to really great flavor. And as you mentioned, there's sort of desserty flavor profile on this. I almost get some sort of like tea, like a black tea. There's almost like a cinnamon red hot candy thing going on in the background. And I just love double oak, man. I love the bottle design, the liquid, the fact that we got it to 10 years old. Just everything about it, I think, is really a solid winner.
I think one of the things I would add to that, and this is, good, I guess, good for the brand, is it tastes like it's more mature than 10 years. It tastes like it's well aged. And I think it's that, okay, this is going to get real nerdy, guys. Sorry. So when you put whiskey in a barrel or even in a vat, it doesn't even have to be aging. It's going to mellow and just kind of get cohesive. So the longer it sits, and when it doesn't have all of the tannins and the charcoal from a new oak barrel, it can the whiskey can just kind of sit there and chill out. And it gave it a whole lot more time to do that. And then at the very end, you get that bourbon profile, which is so cool because normally, like you said, it's over oaked, it's cigar box, it's leather, it's all of those deep, which I like, don't get me wrong, but it's dark, it's dank, it's that. This is that, but it's just turned down a little bit. It's not as punching you in the face. And it is, I love that because that's the hard thing I've had with double oaked whiskeys in general. A lot of times they don't put them in the second barrel for that long, so it's not that big of a deal. But I know like the Garrison brothers, Balmoral, they put it in there for 5 years or something like that. So it's like, okay, what are we doing? Like they're using smaller profile barrels. That's a whole another thing. But anyway, that'll just give you way more oak. But it's like, if I wanted to eat wood, I'd be a beaver, right? So I'm trying to enjoy the whiskey, not, I can sit there and chew on a piece of, wood stave all day long and it's not going to be, but I think that's what's giving this so much balance is the fact that it's very light and refreshing at first. And then on the finish is when it gets, oh, that's well aged. And oh, that has some tannin and that has some, and so it really just goes to show that obviously you took I wouldn't say a fault, but you took something that was could have possibly been like a trash and turned it into a treasure, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I didn't really have much experience tasting or critiquing anything that had really been through this very unique maturation cycle that double oak went through.
Right.
I didn't know how it was going to turn out. Right. I figured, well, it might be too light in the oak realm, or it might be too much. I really have no idea. And then after those couple of years, because the initial release of double oak was an 8-year age stated, so we kept it in those used or the new barrels for a year and a half. With this newest iteration, it's not an increase in price, same SKU, same everything. We just increased that age to 10 years, let it age in those used barrels or new barrels for 3 years total. So that is the newest iteration of double oak that you have in your hands there.
Awesome.
And I love that little bit of extra age, even between just the 8 and the 10, really did wonders to just bring some more of those dessert-like forward flavors. out and just give it at more complexity. And it's been pretty limited, but we actually have done some reserve cask barrels of our double oak liquid. So we did one for New Orleans Bourbon Fest, not this past year, but the year before with a totally custom label. We did one with Seal Box. We did some with Garden and Gun magazine. That is some of the best liquid I think that has ever come out of our hands, and they were all bottle at barrel proof. And if you can imagine the extra age on those and being bottled at that higher proof and all the intensity that they brought, the liquid really just on its own speaks for itself. It's tremendous.
It really does, because it shows a profile that's a little bit different than what everybody else is putting out there. And that's one of the questions I was in my head before we got started wanting to ask, like, what sets you guys apart? And it's this whiskey right here. This is what sets you apart. Don't get me wrong. You're what you would call your blue label. It's absolutely fantastic. It's great whiskey, and the story behind it's really cool. But this whiskey, my only question is, in the future, we're talking, 5 years down the road, are you going to be able to recreate this whiskey?
It's a good question, Randall. I'm glad you sort of put the timing together and the story that we went through. We acquired this liquid, right? So, there's going to be a point in time where we don't have that liquid anymore. So we will be going through, some sort of new innovation to replace that liquid. What you have in the glass and the bottle right there, it's not that right, we're in such short supply that it's going to run out tomorrow. But eventually this stuff will run out. So if you are a fan of it, if you've tried the 8-year but not the 10, if you love the 10, whatever it may be, if you've got some kind of interest in double oak, right, I definitely would recommend that you grab a couple, just because, again, it does have a shelf life on it, right? It will be gone at some point, and we're going to come out with something equally, if not even better than what the double oak is right now. So, but it is a great release. Definitely try it and snag yourself a bottle if you can.
Absolutely. And all the people in my Patreon and all the other things, if you guys want a sample, just hit me up. You know what to do. So one of the questions I want to ask, because we're talking about whiskey and we're talking about doing cool things with whiskey, is there been any finishing projects that you guys have done other than the double oak, like Madeira, ice wine, whatever you want to talk about? Because I feel like sometimes, and I didn't realize you guys had a rye whiskey as well. Because I feel personally that rye whiskey takes on a finish very well. Has there been any finishing options y'all have done?
Tons.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe not as many as some other brands out there, but we have certainly done our fair share. I mean, going all the way back to sort of 2020, that's kind of really when we started doing a good amount of the finishes. We had done some finishes, I think, with Goodwood Brewing, some beer barrel finishes on our bourbon and stuff. But 2020 really, I feel like, was the linchpin when we started doing rotating finishes every year. One of the big ones that we did that year was Island Rooster, which is our rye whiskey finishing Caribbean rum cask for 6 months.
Yes, please.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent. We've done cognac finished bourbon called Chanticleer, which is the French term for rooster. That comes in a commemorative tin can. We did Red Stave, which is a Petite Syrah barrel finished bourbon. We did Mizunara, which is obviously Japanese Mizunara oak finished bourbon. We've done Righteous Blonde, which is our our rye whiskey finish in blonde ale barrels from Goodwood Brewing. And trying to think of what else. I think that's the major ones that come to mind for sure. But each and every one of those, it's what I love about Chicken Cock, is that nothing has ever blended together. There's never been a time since I've been with the brand or have known about the brand or tried the brand where I'm like, this is too close to this. And you're asking $50 for this and, whatever, a couple hundred for this.
Right.
Everything has been so standout and unique and well done. Our whiskeys are so incredibly well balanced. And that's, when it comes to finished whiskeys, they can get overdone very quickly.
Absolutely.
And you can also pick the very wrong type of finish for the whiskey that you're putting out too. It's a delicate art. It's similar to blending whiskey. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know that it can't be too tannic, or that this wine can't overpower the whiskey that we put a lot of time, attention, and effort and energy into making. So it is a delicate balance. One thing that I've noticed throughout our entire set that we've ever done is everything has that perfect balance where our bourbon or our rye shines through and is the star of the show. And that finish is the guest star, right? It's never the other way around.
Right.
So Island Rooster, you get just enough of that molasses and brown sugar and sort of ripe green apple, right, in the mix, but you also taste the rye in its entirety too. Chanticleer, the same thing. That cognac finish just adds a buttery, velvety, amazing complexity to the pour.
Right.
It's all about that balance. You never, if you're making a whiskey where your end finish is dominating over your base whiskey, you're trying to mask it. I don't care. Yeah. There's no two ways about it. You're trying to mask and make up for and flavor what your base whiskey doesn't. And that's not the case with us. We want it to be the star of the show. So
absolutely. And so I heard you I didn't hear you say Amburana. Because I mean, I feel personally, and this is just me, and take that for what it is, Amburana was played out the first 5 minutes it was in the game. You know, like it was cool for 5 minutes and then, okay, I'm done. And there's still people today still doing Amburana. I mean, good Lord, look at the Penelope Rio, right? It's still flying off the shelves. People are still buying it for ridiculous prices. So I get it, but come on, guys, there's a lot better stuff out there that you can do. But at the same time, it's to me, a finish needs to be just that, the finish, the little bit extra for it, because like the base bourbon's great. Let's see if this helps it, or not helps it, but accentuates this one note or makes it a little sweeter or something like that. Because I love those finished whiskeys that make it feel like a cocktail in a glass, right? Where you're just like, oh, okay, now I'm drinking a cocktail. That is excellent. You know, it has a little spice, it has a little sweetness, it has all the things that I want, and I don't have to mix anything. I just pour it in a glass. So that to me, it shows a lot. So that's really cool that you guys aren't afraid to try different things and try new things, but also you're staying very true to what you guys are wanting to do. And it shows in the products that you've sent over tonight, because it really, I don't know. It's just, especially this double oak. I mean, you kind of threw me off. I was when you said double oak, and I'm being transparent with you right now. I was like, okay, it's another double oak bourbon, right? It's fine. It's going to be fine. We're going to work through it, but it is literally blowing my socks off. Like I'm not wearing socks right now even, but it's blowing my socks off because it is so different than any other double oaked I've ever had. And the fact that, I mean, anyway, it's super cool. Okay. Moving on. We got a couple more minutes. Let's talk a little bit about the future, right? Because everybody says that there is a whiskey glut going on right now, and people are being very frugal with their whiskey buying habits. You know, they don't want to buy just your basic everyday whiskey. They're saving up their money to buy a good whiskey. Where do you see the brand in 5 or 10 years? I mean, obviously the future's not certain. We could all be blown away tomorrow. Who knows? But where do you kind of see everything? And not only that, but yourself, you know, obviously you want to stay with this brand because that's the one we're talking about. But at the same time, like, where do we see this in the future?
Yeah. Great question. Look, you know, we've been really reviving this brand officially, I would say, for the last 7 or 8 years since we started bringing it back to its home state of Kentucky. And in that time frame, each and every year, Chicken Cock has grown, you know, past the previous year. When I joined the brand coming up on 3 years ago, when I joined, we had no physical place to call our home. We had some office space and stuff in South Carolina where the Grain and Barrel Spirits is, but Chicken Cock had no place where we could welcome people in and taste some on our whiskey and do all that stuff. We opened up our Bardstown tasting room location. That was last year, or was that? That was last year. And it has gone phenomenally well. Now, look, Bardstown is obviously 40 minutes south of Louisville. Many people make it down there for the Bourbon Trail, but it's cyclical, right?
Right.
But it has been amazing since we've opened up the doors. We're right in the town square of downtown Bardstown. You can't miss us. We're in an old historical home. We bring the authentic, old-timey sort of feel to it with a modern cocktail menu and just amazing merchandise and exclusive things that you can buy there. And we have since, just last week, opened our second tasting room location. We just opened up one in the Nulu district of Louisville.
Oh,
and
wow.
Now we're going to have even more eyeballs, even more foot traffic on this brand. People starting out their distillery and Bourbon Trail tours a lot of times start off in Louisville or make it a center point. So we're going to be able to capture a lot of people coming through to get that experience. So that is one way in which Chicken Cock is a great example of how it's thriving. But each and every year we are growing and surpassing. There's a lot of whiskey brands right now where it's put up or shut up time. You have to prove that you have authenticity, that your liquid is great, you have great people behind the brand. And if you don't have those basic things, right, it's going to be a tough time right now because people are really armed with more education and information than they ever have to make their purchasing decisions. And, we want to be one of those brands that, look, it may have been a while since Chicken Cock had been on the shelf, almost 60 years, but Chicken Cock, I think we're proving time and time again, has a rightful place in the grand scheme of iconic American whiskey brands here in the United States. And we're showing that by increasing our sales and our presence each and every year, while many brands are down or flat right now. So people are paying attention. People are really understanding the true authenticity and boldness and badassery behind this brand. Honestly, there's nothing cooler than having Chicken Cock on your shelf, than drinking Chicken Cock, than explaining Chicken Cock to people and what the hell it's all about. It's just such an amazing brand because it brings both a lightheartedness and it connects to people on that level. And it brings a serious, nature to it, and the fact that it's award-winning, that it's 170 years old, that it's tried and true. You know what I mean? So, in terms of where the future of this brand is going, I think nowhere but up. I think that's going to continue to happen. People are going to continue to notice this brand. We're going to continue to expand our portfolio. We're going to continue to innovate in really great, cool ways that connect with people out there and pay homage to the historic nature of this brand. And I think it's nowhere but up, man. I'm really excited for the future of it.
So you said something. You said that being around Chicken Cock's going to make me cooler. I'm all about it. I need all the cool points I can get right now, because right now I'm failing. No, I'm not failing. We're actually doing fairly well. In this world that we live in, if two dudes can sit on a podcast and talk about whiskey, I think we're doing okay, right? We're not in the milk and bread line right yet. So, we're still good. We're still good. But it really means a whole lot to me that you guys are doing your thing. Yeah, you care about all the other stuff, but you're mainly focused on your legacy that you're trying to move forward, but also creating a new history, if that makes sense. Creating a new history in Chicken Cock, and just the fact that the whiskey speaks for itself. I'm not going to lie, it speaks for itself. What you guys are doing with it is absolutely fantastic, and I can't fault it in any way. But it's not so much that. It is that, obviously, the whiskey's great, but it's the brand. It's what you guys are doing. It's you as a person, Will, and I say that, and your boss, tell your boss you need a raise after talking to me. It's one of those things where it's like, when you're 100% invested in something, you do it to the whole extent of your core feelings, right? Like, you got your family fighting for you. You got everybody fighting on your side for this brand to hope that it does the best that it can. And that really means a lot, because you could have picked, and I'm not trying to get you to say anything, but you could have picked any other brand to work for, and Chicken Cock came up. And I mean, you're literally wearing the shirt. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, this guy is fully vested in this company, and it shows because the whiskey shows for itself. And the fact that they're trying to revive an old brand and turn it into, because here's the thing, old whiskey doesn't mean it was actually good, right? I mean, just because it's old whiskey, it could be crap whiskey. You could get a label pretty easily back then, I'm pretty sure. But
Yeah.
these guys are trying to make the best whiskey that they can, put it out to market for a reasonable price. And we're going to talk about, all of that here in a second. But as you guys have this portfolio and you keep going with Chicken Cock, you also have other brands as well in your parent company as well. If you want to talk a minute about those,
Yeah.
and then we'll close it out.
Yeah. So no, I appreciate all the kind words first and foremost about the liquid you've tried now, understanding the brand, what I do, what I bring to the table. We've got such an amazing, talented team that's behind all of this as well. It's a small but mighty team, and I love every person on it. So it wouldn't be possible with anybody else as well. Without anybody else, the other thing I always keep in mind, right, the historical nature of this brand. Instead of saying I work for Chicken Cock or, all that kind of stuff. Of course, I say that often, but really in my head, I'm a steward. We are stewards of a historic legacy. That is the way that I view it. I don't view this as just we saw an old brand and it was time to cash in real quick before while the whiskey thing is going on. Look, yeah. I hunt down historical artifacts and paperwork and bottles and read up on the brand and print newspaper articles. And I try to invoke my passion, not just to people like you, not just the people that I see at events or distributors or anything like that, but I try to do that internally, right? With anybody that's repping the brand. And it goes a long way. When you're able to represent a brand that has as much history and you sort of think of yourself as more of a steward to a historical legacy, it kind of lights a fire in you a little bit differently than if you were just selling Joe Schmo's whiskey out of a box, right? So there's that there, number one. Number two, I am most definitely, stamped for life in the fact that we hosted a tattoo party in Brooklyn, New York this past year. And I got my first ever tattoo, which is a little a chicken cock holding a glass of whiskey. So I'm definitely marked, and you can see me out there with that. But I forget what your third question was to kind of close it out there.
To talk about the parent company and all the other brands
yes.
going
on. So Grain and Barrel Spirits, again, Chicken Cock is the biggest brand that we produce currently, but we also do have the Elvis Whiskey brand. So, if you look out there on the shelf, that is a Grain and Barrel Spirits product. We make a Tennessee whiskey, a Tennessee rye, and the star of the show for the Elvis Whiskey brand is Midnight Snack. That is a peanut butter banana bacon flavored whiskey meant to pay homage to the king himself and his favorite snack of all time. So it's starts as a base of Tennessee whiskey. It's 70 proof, and then it's flavored with peanut butter, banana, and bacon flavors. So it is delectable. It is insanely delicious. Put it in your freezer, drink it nice and cold, pour it over some ice cream. Do not let the description sort of throw you through a whirl. I understand it's a weird combo of flavors. You will more than likely enjoy the hell out of it and buy another bottle as soon as you finish the first one. So keep an eye out for that. We also do have E.G. Booze, which is another historical play. Edmund G. Booze was an actual person. He was a proprietor. There's a lot of things that point to him being sort of the inception of the terminology booze here in the American lexicon. Can't, be proven for certain, but it's one of the places you might be able to look. Anyway, we do have that whiskey brand. We make a bourbon and a rye on that, and not distributed everywhere, but in some markets you can find that. We also have Eterno Verano tequila. We also have Dixie vodka, which is more of a southeastern sort of a brand that you can find. We've definitely got a few brands out there. We're like I said, small but mighty, and Chicken Cock is definitely punching above its weight in every way, shape, and form. But we look forward to the future, and we've got a really strong team. And next year, I'm going to be building out a team of a few ambassadors to be under me. They're going to be spread across the nation too. So I didn't just come into this as a totally new brand ambassador to the company, and personally and professionally. But now building out a team of my own brand ambassadors to be out there spreading the good word of the bird, as I like to say.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Will, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and spreading the word of the bird. Uh, but I will say the whiskey shows for itself, guys. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, it's another brand, it's another whatever. It's not. It's really not. These guys are trying their hardest to recreate old stuff, make it new, give it a new spin. And I will tell you that I wouldn't have somebody on that I didn't truly believe in. And I believe in these guys. And I feel like they are trying to be 100% transparent. And they are also trying to be 100% cool and just be like, hey, we're making cool stuff. Try it if you want it. If you don't, that's fine. Like, just try it. Hey, try it. And I guarantee you'll like it.
Yep.
And it's so cool to see that. And I don't know. To me, there's a lot of backbiting and stuff like that in whiskey right now, where people are getting very like brand specific and all of these things. And I don't know. To me, I'm like, is the whiskey good? Is it not? That's all I care about. Am I going to drink it? And my wife and I have been watching reruns of, I don't know if you ever watched this, the British Baking Show.
Yeah, I know of it. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you need to watch it. It's a silly, stupid show about baking British things. But one of the ladies that's a judge on there, she says it's not worth the calories, right? So I will tell you, chicken cock is worth the calories. Oh God, I said it. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it like that. You know what I meant. Chicken cock whiskey in itself is worth the calories, because here's the thing. We like you said earlier, everybody is being more informed about their whiskey and more informed about their spending habits and all of so not everybody's just going to pick up a whiskey, but if it's endorsed, if somebody's done a review about it, and that's why I try to be very transparent in the way that I'm doing it, as well as you. I just want the viewers, the listeners to know that it's out there. Try it. If you like it, great. If not, move on. Yeah. And that's the cool thing about whiskey is it's non-pretentious, and you guys are just out here trying to have fun and trying to make a cool product and have a cool story to back it up. So, Will, I can't thank you enough. Any last words before we get out here?
No, brother. Just thank you again for the time and your interest in the brand and all the kind words you've said so far, and I'm sure hopefully we'll continue after we turn off the cameras too. But no, thank you again for this opportunity. If you want to find out more about the brand, you can go to chickencockwhiskey.com. If you want to find us on social, which I highly recommend you kind of follow up along with what we have going on out there, Chicken Cock Whiskey on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you want to follow along with me personally and what I do and where I'm at, you can follow along on Instagram at MashBillWill. That is my Instagram handle. And, just be on the lookout for what we've got coming down the pipeline. I mentioned the tattoo. We just did tattoo parties for the first time this year back in May. We've got a good partnership going with Inked Magazine right now. And we just launched, we did a single barrel pick with them where we had a tattoo artist from Three Kings Tattoo, who's the tattoo shop who did mine. We had one of their artists, Matt Adamson, design the front label, which is like in the style of a tattoo with a snake and a rooster. That's awesome. It sold out so quick, within 7 hours off our website. And so we just launched some more out there onto our website, so you can find that if it's still available. But we do a lot of really cool direct consumer things that are only available on our website throughout the year. A couple of cool releases. So always be on the lookout for that. And lastly, of course, if you're coming down to Kentucky, you have to come visit us. So again, we've got our tasting room called Circa 1856 that's situated in the Nulu district in Louisville. And then we've also got our original tasting room, which is situated in Bardstown, Kentucky, right in the center loop in the downtown area in the historic Harrison Smith House. So please come visit us. Please come find out more about us. Please come see us at a show. Walk up to me. I'm sure I'll be the one behind the table serving you up whiskey. So Randall, I just want to thank you again, man, for the time and the interest.
No, it's no problem. And I appreciate you coming on here, taking time out of your day to hang out with me and bringing some excellent whiskeys for us to sip on. And like I said, I will sample this out to a bunch of people so they can try a little cock themselves. Anyway, that got weird. I'm sorry. Y'all be good. Yeah, exactly. Stay on, Will. I want to talk to you. Y'all be good. And make sure you drink water. water, it's a thing, especially when you're drinking whiskey. So y'all be good. And until next time, keep your spirits up. Later.